How's it going? We are in our corn and soybean plot, and it's looking really good, and really changed it up this year. As I've said, we lowered our row population. We got some skips back here, and we had a thinner stand here in the soybeans, and we had some skips up here, and I think it's really interesting. I've always found in these plots, if you have a plant that's a different height, it's probably thinner in that spot, and that's what's similar. We had a couple skips here in the soybean, and look how it's still branched. So I'm counting 13 nodes on a 2-4 bean planted mid-June here. So we lowered our row population on the corn significantly. We kept it the same. So I have a 20-inch planter, so we basically have a third population, about 11.5 here. And what I noticed last year when we had an 85 day, so it wasn't really suitable for our latitude, but we're holding on to 2 ears on every single plant here. So if we can get 2 ears that are, nearly a half a pound, and we don't really push our water finite, limiting factor there, I really think in a good year, even this is planted mid-June, I think we have 160 to maybe 180 bushel corn here. And the beans are much better than last year. Last year we had a 3.5, they really stretch. Now these have stretched somewhat, but we're still getting a decent pod set, even though the nodes are stacked a little bit further apart. So what I'm thinking is, I'm going to go to Dawn Equipment, talk to Joe tomorrow. Basically we're working on this concept of a pluribus plus a duo seed. So you'll have 2 separate bars. And what that allows us to do is do several things in one pass. So a thought here as we develop our biochar market from our manure sharing system is we can coat urea and go in there, and we could seed soybeans when we make our strip for corn, get those going in 2 or 3 rows, put all our nitrogen needs there in the row, and then you're done. Come in with your corn planter, or you can set it up to where you do it in one pass with your planter. A lot of options here, but I really think this is viable. And again, my point is all of our technology, whether it's BT corn or herbicide resistance, is sold by unit price. So if we can throttle that back, I'd really like to throttle this corn back to 6,000 to 8,000 and probably just keep it down the row in 60s. And it all comes down to the solar corridor. That's what that tweet was about yesterday with that light coming in. If you choke this off up here, you lose all that energy. That difference in that light on that soybean pile, that's exponential more energy, but you have to keep this solar corridor open, and that's going to change the behavior of this. So the thought process here, we lower the population here. So if we're at 6 instead of 36, you're at $16.66. If you were at 100, lower this down to about 80, and now a unit's 55, you're maybe 27. So 27 plus 1666, what's that? 4366 in seed. And maybe you run this legume nodulating here, pull these beans up, we've got nodules here running the corn off. And maybe that's one interesting thing we can do with the duo seed. So let's layer that even back. We come in here with 15 or 20 inch rye in the fall, and we zip it between these rows. We plant in between these rows. We let it grow for a little bit, kind of manage our water, burn it down. Then we use that carbon as kind of our residual herbicide. Then we can get really beep, cheap. So let's keep walking here while I've got you. So again, wanted to see as many things as possible. That's really interesting. Get a thinner plant, even in this solar corridor. See how we've got 3 good branches here. I'll just go ahead and tear this up. So we can manipulate plant architecture with population even if we give it enough solar corridor. So that's where I'm saying maybe you get down to 60,000 beans. And if you use that rye, you don't have to expedite canopy closure so quickly to worry about weed pressure. We could drop this way down. Plus, did I lose you? Plus, have a better soil if we can manage that water. So anyway, so you've got 60-inch corn. I've got 3 rows. And then I had a 40-inch that I go ahead and put those twin rows in. So you can see what 40-inch corn does. And it goes back to choking off this solar corridor. And see how much taller these beans are? See how stretchier and weaker they are? So there's really a point to where you can push the corn too much But you're really exploiting these elite hybrids when you give them space and pop them down. We're putting 2 on this 0574, and it's a nice, really kind of pineapple erect corn that works good here. And I think if we really shade back on the maturity, then if we were going to harvest this together and clean it, we wouldn't have a gun to our head to clean that up and dry the corn. So if we go back a little bit on the maturity on the corn, we let it dry down in the field, you know, we could drop cover crop seeds here and set the plate for next year. So we're getting into our skips here now. See how this opens up? See how the beans have went from, got a little bit of water hint there, from, you know, we're about 3.5, 4 feet here, and we drop a foot. And it's funny, they really react. That's the south, so it's a little bit taller right behind where the southern exposure is blocked, and then it gets shorter where it has a solar corridor. So what we're noticing here is we're triggering, you know, 5, 6, 7 years on these plants. So we'll see how much viable. This sucker just came up, grew in here on top. It's pretty interesting. So I think there's a limit to how much we can push that. You run out of baby batter, if you will, up here. So how much of these get pollinated? They're looking pretty good. But what's that number? Can we get 3, 4, 5? Or is it more like 3? And then how do these beans react to that added space? So if we give up, say, 40 bushel here, but we lower our input cost, let's just make up a number, $25, and then we gain 20 bushel here. So I'm trying to kind of get a feel for of what is kind of the winning combination here. If nothing else, it's just pretty cool to see how genetic expression works. So here you've got one good ear here, 2, 3, 4 on that guy. So I'll keep you in the loop on how this works together. But I think from a management, what I'm really excited. This is 0574, planted mid-June. Both of these. This was the last thing that I planted in our first. What we want to do with our wheat and soybeans is hood spray down the row. We could come out in fall and plant that rye where we want it, and then do, like I said, you know, the strip for corn and soybeans. But anyway, I'll let you go. Thanks for watching. I may go over to our other relay field this morning. All right, see ya.